Hi, John Murphy of FPF Training with this week's That's a Thing. This week's That's a Thing is being brought to you live, or recorded, I should say, from my Street and Counter Skills and Tactics class here in lovely Morristown, Minnesota. Hello, Morristown. Hey! All right, so the topic today is, what does it take to stop someone with a handgun? Well, there's two ways we're approaching this issue, psychologically and physiologically. Psychologically, the presentation of a weapon can be sufficient impetus to stop one from assaulting you. Depends upon whose statistic you believe in. Dr. Kleck figures about 2.4 million defensive gun uses a year. The Department of Justice is about 300,000. That's quite the variation, but still a significant marker. So the introduction of the handgun and a verbal command, stop, can be sufficient to dissuade some criminal assaults. Sometimes, however, that's not enough. So if you induce the fear of being shot and someone leaves, that's a victory. We call that FOBs. John Correa of YouTube fame, Active Self-Protection, has another thing. He calls it FIBS, or fudge, I've been shot. Let's have a look at what that can look like. Ears, please. Perfect. Okay, so here this guy has just had his earlobe clipped. Has he been shot? Yes. Yeah. Yes. Could that be enough to psychologically persuade him to leave me alone? Yes. Yes. So he has been shot, but has he been shot effectively, physiologically? No. No. So if he were of the right mindset, could he continue to fight? Yes. If I used that lethal force in an unjustified fashion, what would I be charged with right now? Attempted homicide, assault with a deadly weapon, aggravated assault. So he's definitely been shot. There's definitely been a shot fired. But he can still fight. Okay, we fired another shot. This one's a bit more meat and bone. Could he still fight? Yes. So unless he's been affected psychologically, there's nothing that would stop him physiologically from fighting me. One, two, three, four, five, 6, 7, 8, 9. You shot my baby boy 9 times. 9 times you shot my son. You tortured my boy. Why'd you shoot him so many times? Well, because I had to, because he was still an effective, aggressive threat. Because, folks, I got news. None of these hits here would prevent a determined person from still attempting to kill you. If you don't believe it, look up on the internet the story of Master Sergeant Roy Benavidez from Vietnam, Medal of Honor recipient. Shot and stabbed multiple times. Was evacuating a team of Special Forces soldiers, would throw a guy over his shoulder, run back to the helicopter, dump him. On the way back and forth, getting shot, stabbed, and killing dudes back and forth multiple times. Eventually, he got on the helicopter, they flew off, they put him in a body bag, they thought he was dead. And they wanted to zip him up, and I'm not dead yet. And what kept him going was adrenaline, testosterone, and the love of his brothers. That is the good side of this equation. There's another side of this equation, and I'll take you to the Miami Shootout in 1986, involving FBI agents and 2 very bad actors by the name of Platt and Maddox. Both of those guys received substantial wounds and went on to kill 2 FBI agents and wound 5 others. So to stop someone physiologically, we got 2 options. One is the central nervous system, the electrical system. We turn off the brain, shut down the computer, the body drops. That would be a CNS, central nervous system hit. There are other bits of the central nervous system we can attack. The spinal column running all the way down here like that. That is essentially a switch. The other system we can attack is the hydraulic system. That is, in this case, the pump that pushes the blood throughout our body and keeps the brain oxygenated. Without oxygen to the brain, what do we get? Well, they pass out. It's called extenuation. They bleed out. Blood pressure goes down, people fall down, they're able to fight. I think in that video I showed you yesterday, an example of someone who took some hits, went down for about 6 seconds, and then what'd she do? She pushed back up again. So to make that extenuation thing happen, among other things, we had to look at the body as, well, we're human animals. And our organs are suspended in 3 dimensions, and we're shooting specifically for organs. In one case, the brain. Then we had the spinal column. So up here at the top, we have what's referred to as the ocular window. A shot here will put a piece of lead into the brain for electrical shutdown. Moving right here at the base of the nose, bottom of the nose, right here, if you draw a line from here right back to here, is essentially where the USB cable plugs in. A shot there cuts that cord, instant ragdoll. In the video series, I have a couple of examples of that happening. The gun store in Atlanta, where you had the gentleman that was doing his 4473s. He looks up and his assistant's like, boss, we're being robbed. The guy turned, oh yes, we are being robbed. Masterclass IDPA shooter, oh no, competition will get you killed in the streets, right? Not so much. The gun came up, boom, he shot this kid, and the impact of the bullet, he manifested this. This is called a decortate response. He dropped his gun and fell. He was dead by the time he hit the floor. I had the good fortune of talking to the medical examiner who did the autopsy on that kid. That bullet entered right here, transected the whole, the sinus cavity all the way back to that magic spot. It's essentially an internal decapitation. And down he went. We move further south. We got the oral cavity in the mouth. Multiple examples of people being shot there and being relatively unaffected. Lots of jawbone, teeth, dental fixtures. Handgun bullets have a hard time causing any real impact through all that sort of thing. Moving down, we've got the neck and throat, the jugular, the carotid down here, and the trachea. Interrupt the airway. I remember that video I showed you yesterday of the guy that had his carotid cut. He staggered about for a good 6 or 7 seconds. Folks, let me impress this upon you right now. You can be killed by an almost dead man. Because that now, attacking the pump system, the hydraulic system, well, that can take time. That can take time. The other example from the video series, and hey, you have to take the class to see the whole thing, okay? The guy that was shot here in the aortic arch, because we're moving down from that, from the jaw, from the neck and throat line to the aortic cardiac triangle, referred to, the base of the throat and between the nipples right here. Home is where the heart is. Home is where that fist-sized muscle is that's pumping away. Putting a shot through the heart muscle itself can be relatively effective, but think of the heart muscle as a World War II fighter plane fuel tank. It's kind of self-sealing. So we poke a hole in the muscle, and the muscle itself cinches up behind that, and it just pumps a little bit of blood, leaks a little bit, but it's still pumping. That blood has to go all the way through the body up to the brain to keep that fighting action going. If, however, we are fortunate enough to hit the big vessels atop the heart, referred to as the aortic arch, those vessels will rip away. And yesterday you saw a prime example of someone who was shot there. What did he do? He just fell down and quietly bled out. Moving below the heart, he had the diaphragm up around here. My friend and mentor, Tom Gibbons, is famous for saying, what do people shot below the diaphragm do? And the answer is the same thing they were doing before they were shot below the diaphragm. There's nothing there to prevent them physiologically from continuing the fight. Moving down, we had the pelvic girdle. Big bone structure here. Our whole weight-bearing surfaces, the joints, the hips, all plugs in right there. A shot there. Well, there's two schools of thought. It is profoundly painful, and if you break the bone, down they go, they're immobile. The hard thing, though, is hitting that bone precisely with a handgun round to cause that break. These are considerations. People have been shot in the hips and have still been fully mobile and still fully capable of fighting. That said, if you read Jim Cirillo's book, Tales of the Stakeout Squad, and this was back in the 70s in New York City when those small stores, the bodegas, were being robbed, and they changed the penalty for armed robbery to make it the same as murder. Well, okay, then why not just kill everybody in the store and remove all witnesses? So that was what was happening. The NYPD response to that was to have officers staked out in the store, and one guy would use a shotgun or an M1 carbine, and he would come out of hiding and he would shoot people down here low in the butt, and that would have a paralytic effect. He did it so often they called him the proctologist. It was very effective. And these are the places we have to place a bullet to stop someone with a handgun. So this is why accuracy is a thing. Thanks for your time. Hope to see you on the range.